Hi, I'd like to introduce this video created by our students of victimology. It is a video on the relationship between victimology and killing robots or autonomous weapons. So they are going to develop what are killing robots, which is the campaign Stop Killing Robots, which is the relationship between macro-victimization and killing robots, and which might be the impact in creating perhaps more victims if we use killing robots or autonomous weapons. In a sense, we are wondering, not like Ian McEwan, on the relationship between love and technology in his latest book, Machines Like Me, but which might be the relationship between abuse of power and victimization.
A robot is a machine that operates automatically with human-like skills. The term robot derives from Czech words for slave and worker, and robota means work, labor or hard work, and robotic was a period of 6 months where a slave worked for his lord and have to do the work for his lord. I wanted to introduce you some cases where people ended up dead because of killer robots. The first one was a Tesla case. Tesla is a company of autonomous cars where a man was driving the car. It crashed with a semi-trailer and he ended up dead. And the second case is a famous case of a terrorist called Mika Xavier Johnson that killed some police officers and entrenched himself in a building. So the FBI decided to use a robot against him, and the robot dropped a bomb to kill this terrorist. As a journalist said, they were using a robot that was meant to protect people to act against someone, so it ended up being like a paradox. Also, after seeing these individual cases, I wanted to talk you about macro-victimization and how this process can be or can affect to more people than individual people. In this case, I'm going to talk about is robots that have iris recognition, that act looking for people that is wanted as criminals or terrorists. And this system of iris recognition in robots is also used to help soldiers in war conflicts. In this case, we have to mention that the USA has been using these robots to look for criminals of Iraq and Afghanistan. These robots have a database where they have all the dates about criminals, and they have a weapon, so if they found the criminal, they shoot till death.
A change in society, maybe regarding our everyday living, our political convictions, or advances in technology. Our responsibility as a citizen is not necessarily to find the right answers, but to ask the right questions, just to show that we care. So, how? What? Where? Who? When? When it comes to the development of lethal autonomous weapon systems, the question that strikes me the most is how? How do we justify things to ourselves? How do we accept things as morally correct? How is our perception of good and bad influenced? How great is the influence of lethal autonomous weapon systems on the person harmed? How far does it have to be regulated? And how can I accept something that seemed so out of science fiction just a couple of years ago? And how do we, as an international society or as an individual, morally justified to keep on developing and deploying lethal autonomous weapon systems in combat. One of the concepts to help understand giving answers to some of these questions might be the theory on moral disengagement of Pandora, which gives us some instruments in order to understand better moral reasoning. So now let's say I'm an American citizen and my partner is deployed in the Middle East. And I'm hoping for him to come back home, to come back to me, and not become one of the victims of the United States war on terror so many others have been before. If someone told me killer robots increase the chance of him coming back home to me, I'd be eager and happy to understand this as a completely socially worthy and moral purpose. Out of this perspective, I'd leave out that this only benefits American soldiers and their allies and not their opponents nor the civil population in war zones. But out of my perspective, the development of lethal autonomous weapon systems is not harmful conduct anymore. Another example. Let's say I'm a military official and I'm confronted with the fact that according to the US Department of Veterans Affairs, 11 to 20% of US soldiers who served in the operations Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom suffer from PTSD. This just shows the immense stress level they're exposed to when they're in the battlefield. And this leads to the fact that they sometimes do wrongful decisions. At the end of the day, they're human beings, they're not machines, they do not function. If I now compare the negative outcome of having human soldiers in the battlefield, comparing with the possibility of lethal autonomous weapon systems, not only replacing soldiers in stressful situations, but ensuring me that they function consistently according to their algorithm, I'd endorse the development of lethal autonomous weapon systems. I'd use what Pandora calls advantageous comparison. According to Pandora, moral control operates more strongly when people acknowledge that they contributed to a harmful situation. So now what I could do as a developer of killer robots in a private company, in order to avoid acknowledging that I contributed to the harm in the battlefield, is displace responsibility. I am not directly killing someone. I'm not even in the battlefield, not even a member of the army. Nor am I indirectly responsible, because at the end of the day, I'm only fulfilling my task. The tasks I receive from my boss, and my boss got his orders from his boss, and so on and so on. And this line of thinking is transferable to soldiers maintaining and instructing killer robots. But what this leads to, at the end of the day, is that no one is taking responsibility. No one is forced to acknowledge what happened to the victims. And now let's imagine I'm a soldier, and I'm probably eager to disregard or distort the consequences of my possible actions that the environment of war forces me to do. And employing more and more lethal autonomous weapon systems gives me that option. It means I don't have to be ordered into situations where I might get harmed. It means I don't have to face the resistance of imposed killing. I don't have to be afraid to see the fear in someone's eyes before I pull the trigger. It means I don't have to see the hurt, the blood, the injuries, and the death my actions caused. But now let's imagine I'm a woman somewhere in North Syria, and I'm at the wrong place at the wrong time. What do I think if I see a machine that I've probably never seen before come driving towards me? How do I feel?
I'm going to focus on the diffusion of responsibility and then on Bandura's theory and the humanization. One of the major problems with these robots is the mentioned diffusion of responsibility, as the campaign Stop Killer Robots defense it's unclear who, if anyone, is going to be responsible for the unlawful acts committed by these robots. So who is going to be responsible? That's the key question. Is it going to be the programmer, the manufacturer, or even the robot? In a report by the Human Rights Watch, they highlighted that if a robot commits in a war, or kills someone in a war, nobody is going to be responsible for that death. So in this way, it would be very difficult to ensure justice, especially for victims. And from the perspective of victimology, we cannot allow this to happen because the victim is going to feel totally helpless. In the face of this conflict, some countries have expressed their views. Specifically, the delegation of Chile isn't agree with the fact that killer robots can make decisions about the life and death of human beings, and also adds that this situation can cause dehumanization. So we can put in relation what the delegation of Chile has said with the Bandura selective moral disengagement theory. That is, one of the most worrying consequences could be the dehumanization. And as Bandura defends, this theory is based on the fact that we use our defensive mechanism to try to legitimate the unlawful acts that we are making. A clear example is in a context of a war where soldiers try to justify their actions by this defensive mechanism and also by taking humanity away from their victims. And in this way, as Bandura said, if we treat people as subhuman, the empathy is going to disappear and we are going to destroy the sense of humanity. So, taking into account all the consequences mentioned, I would like to finish saying that an empirical fact is that technology has a big impact in vulnerable victims. So, it is obvious that the use of killing robots is going to cause lots of victims. And in this context, we know that the use of technology impacts very badly in vulnerable victims. Shouldn't we be worried by the impact of killing robots?
So this is all. We want to thank you again for listening, and we hope people to get interested in this topic and to study it because it's not very well known, and we didn't know anything about killing robots until our teacher told us in class. But now that we know some things, we think it's going to be a very important problem in the future, so it's necessary to start studying this.